The Catholics of Oz is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
You're listening to episode 20 of the Catholics of Oz. Catholics of Oz is a show where we discuss faith, culture, and what's been happening from an Aussie perspective. Whether it's synods or science, apostolates and apps, providence or productivity, you can hear it right now on the Catholics of Oz. Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Catholics of Oz. My name is Lindsay Sant, your host, and I'm joined today by my lovely sister, Caroline Knight. Caroline, how are you?
I'm well, my lovely brother. Thank you. Very well, thank you. It's nice and warm and not cold, so I'm happy.
It's good the weather's getting a bit better for us, although it's still a bit up and down, isn't it?
It is.
Melbourne. What
hasn't
can you
settled
do about
completely. Yeah, exactly.
No. Yeah. But anyway, it's good to have you back. It looks like we've been going one for one in the last couple of episodes.
It does seem that way, doesn't it?
Jerry can't be on this time. You can, but that's good as long as we got someone. I don't want to be talking on my own.
Yes, we will be, all three again together at some point, I'm sure.
We shall return. It will happen. Yes. But before we get started today, just like to remind everyone that you can like the Catholics of Oz episodes as they come out on the SQPN Facebook page. You can retweet our episodes on Twitter, and you can leave us comments on those platforms as well. All of that helps us very much. Don't forget also to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, or your favorite podcast player. We're also on YouTube. Just search for SQPN on YouTube, and you'll see our show and all of SQPN's other shows there as well. Just hit the bell to get notifications when new episodes come out. You can also leave us feedback on iTunes and other podcast directories, and this makes a huge difference to us because it helps us to grow our community and get noticed by more people. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get started with Faith Beyond Borders.
Well, I'm actually feeling rather good about this. I think we've all arrived at a very special place, eh? Oh. Spiritually, ecumenically.
How do you make somebody love you without affecting free will?
Welcome to my world, son. You come up with an answer to that one, you let me know.
Yes, I had to work very hard to pass Latin and theology.
Oh, quite. Those are, of course, the most important things.
Oh, yeah.
I'd sit this one out, Cap.
I don't see how I can.
These guys come from legend. They're basically gods.
There's only one god, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
So, Caroline, in our Faith Beyond Borders, we've got a couple of topics today, but I wanted to start with this one that just yesterday or the day before, I happened to be scrolling through my Facebook, page. And
As you do.
As you do, yep. And I've just discovered that the Archdiocese of Sydney is trying to open the cause, is seeking information to get the process for Australia's second saint underway. And this is Eileen O'Connor, who was part of the Society of the Missionaries of the Sacred Heart, I should say, sorry. And Eileen was the founder of a group of nuns who basically, a bit like Mary MacKillop, who we're talking about, but she went to serve the poor. In particular, looking after people who were sick and lonely. So she founded this order with a priest, Reverend Edward Ted McGrath, in 1913. And basically, she, and I think she'd also traveled to Rome with this priest as well to get this underway. But basically, Father Ted had noticed that Eileen was a very spiritual young woman. She didn't have, a deep theology or anything like that, but she was very, very devoted to Our Lady, just like he was. Now, she was born in 1892, and she was actually crippled by a fall when she was 3 years old. And so she actually lived her life mostly paralyzed. And I think from memory, she died in her 20s. So she, she died quite young. However, she was very interested in helping the sick and the poor. And this is because of her own experiences in her family, who had been put into some dangerous financial circumstances in her early life when her father died in 1911. So also Father McGrath himself also had deep empathy for people who are experiencing difficulties. And he had a disadvantaged background himself. And so because of that, they founded this order, and they went out to help the poor. Now, they still exist today, and I was reading somewhere that they're actually one of the last ports of call for patients who have debilitating mental illness and physical illness, because of some of the difficulties with getting support. The brown nurses, as they're called, are actually one of the last chances that people have to be able to be assisted to live independently. So, a really amazing organization that she set up through these sisters, and also an organization that continues today, and one that does vital work. So, Caroline, what do you think? We could be looking at Australia's second saint.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, so good that we, found someone else to possibly put forward for sainthood. And what a wonderful person she sounds like, that, being unwell and crippled herself, wanting to reach out and help others. I mean, I think when I'm feeling unwell, the last thing I want to do is help someone else. I want someone to help me. It's just amazing. She definitely deserves sainthood, to have that status. She'd be such a great example for us to look up to. The people who are, just so concerned with the poor. I mean, we have a lot of disadvantaged people here in Australia. And, you're mentioning people with mental issues, unable to get help. It's quite a big issue here in Australia. It is very hard for people with mental disabilities and issues to get help. So at least, their order is able to help in some way. The systems that are set up are quite difficult at the moment. The NDIS and things I've heard that we have here for people with disabilities is quite difficult to navigate, So to have another port of call is actually just wonderful, that it's available. And exciting. I really hope that that we can go forward with this and get her made to a saint. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, we're probably
wonderful
about
for
due.
Australia.
Yeah, we're due for another one, aren't we? We've got Mary McKillop, and she was
definitely,
brilliant.
Number one, number two. There are many wonderful Australians out there who have given their life that we just don't know about, and I think it's really worth looking into. Finding out about these people and definitely putting them up for sainthood. So
in our country's relatively young history, there are certainly a lot of Aussie saints in the making, and a lot of people who'd be very good candidates for Australian sainthood. Yeah. So just to add some other details. So Archbishop Anthony Fisher, who's the Archbishop of Sydney, he put out an edict, and he was basically calling on Catholics to provide as much information as they can, if they have any information, which would help to bring the cause of beatification and canonization to happen. And so he said here, I call upon all the faithful of this Archdiocese of Sydney who may have useful information regarding the servant of God to bring such documents, materials, and information to my attention. So Bishop Anthony Randazzo, who's the Bishop of Broken Bay, which is the diocese next door to Sydney, he was absolutely thrilled by this. He said, I have known Our Lady's Nurses for the Poor since I was a priest in Brisbane back in the 90s. I've seen the way that they have quietly worked amongst the poor and the dying in the spirit. The gentle but consistent spirit of Eileen O'Connor was very obvious. So he said that as a modern reflection, Eileen is a symbol for us. She's a symbol of hope in our time when so many issues, where there are issues of life and the dignity of the human person under question. And of course, there's a biography that was authored by Dr. Jocelyn Headley. So I probably need to, because to be honest, I didn't know much about this story until I read about it on Facebook. So I'm really curious about if this is going to be Australia's next saint. But she said the opening of Eileen's cause may well represent a change for things in Australia. Eileen, a champion of the unborn, the weak, stands completely counter to our society, which says people like her should not exist, which is a really, really powerful statement to make, considering that we're moving towards a world that values people based on their ability to, to fit within a certain criteria. And certainly people with disabilities, are facing all kinds of discrimination, sometimes even before they're born in some cases as well. So yeah.
Very sad.
Yeah. So I think if we can get this up and running, and if Pope Francis at some stage in the near future can say, "Yep, Eileen O'Connor, Australia's next saint," that would be a powerful statement to make, and a powerful voice to use. I'm just thinking as a Catholic school teacher, so because I had not known of Eileen O'Connor very much before this. As a high school teacher, just a powerful example, like you said before, Caroline, of what a person can do despite really difficult physical circumstances and still being able to do so much.
It's so selfless. It really is. What a good example she would be, or she is for everyone. And I think, if she was to be made a saint, it would really bring Catholicism in Australia, back into the spotlight for a good reason, and just show that, we're actually out there to help, and, we're good people. It's not all about the bad things, that, some people have done in the church. So yeah, it would be great if we could, if this happened. Yeah. Let's hope it happens really soon.
Yeah. Great. All right. Well, why don't we move on to our next Faith Beyond Borders topic? So this one, interesting topic. All right. It's certainly on Facebook today. It set the Ages discussion forum on Facebook on fire. And because it is because it hints at a women's issue. So obviously when we talk about women's issues, and you're going to know more about this than I am, when we talk about women's issues in society, it does tend to be quite a sensitive topic to get into. So I'll give some background. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it was in the Catholic Weekly online, on their Facebook page as one of their articles. So what they did was they basically shared an article from the ABC. The original cartoon was a newspaper cartoon, appeared in The Age, which is a Melbourne newspaper. So Michael Leunig is a cartoonist who has been drawing cartoons for The Age for a long time. He seems like a very
long time.
timeless
I think we've
person.
grown up with him. Yeah.
Now
we've seen his cartoons many times, haven't we? Since we were children. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Now he's very interesting because he talks about God, although I don't know. It's very hard to pin this down. I don't know that he's a Christian or particularly religious, but he's, how do I put it? And I'm happy to be corrected on this, but he seems to me to be religious, but not a believing religious. Like he's got a concept of God where, that there's something out there, or if there's not something out there, there's a transcendent divine idea. It's that kind of, exploring kind of mode that he's in. Now, he, interestingly has written, for example, prayer books, dear God, this, and this, and they're usually associated with one of his cartoons or drawings. Mm-hmm. And his prayers, are quite thoughtful, very compatible with us, by and large. And, I even saw a book where it was a book of Michael Leunig cartoons where on one page you would have a cartoon and on the opposite page you would have basically an excerpt from a theologian. And what they were doing was showing how there's so much correlation between what he's saying and what this theologian might have written, so they've got Karl Rahner and these other theologians. Really, really interesting. However, so I'm guessing that's why the Catholic Weekly has posted this because of the sort of semi-Christian connection that he has. So here it is, Caroline. In the ABC News, the headline is Leunig cartoon criticizing mother's use of Instagram and social media sparks backlash. Here we go. So what we have is a cartoon of a mother pushing a pram, and she's looking, head down, hunched over at her phone, and hasn't noticed that the baby has fallen out of the pram. So the baby's lying on its back, eyes wide open, a bit stunned about, hey, what happened? I was just in my pram and now I'm on the ground. And then there's a poem, because he writes poetry with his cartoons, and it says, Mummy was busy on Instagram when beautiful baby fell out of the pram and lay on a path unseen and alone, wishing that he was loved like a phone. Well, so
there's a lot in that.
Yeah. Why don't I share some of the reaction with you, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts as a mother.
No, I have some.
Yeah, all right. So, okay, all right. So basically it said the cartoon showed a mother reading her phone, etc., etc. So feminist author Clementine Ford said Lunig's cartoon amounted to condescending judgment and labelled him a... I don't have a bleep button, so I can't read what she says next. All right. But this is in our national broadcasters newspaper. I can't read the next words. Okay.
Yeah. No,
they were kind enough to, put asterisks where there should be. All right. And then she said, I bet you never spent hours walking babies around in a pram, feeling isolated and alone and terrified, she wrote in a tweet, which has been retweeted more than 400 times and attracted more than 3,500 likes. But actually, none of these reasons are any of your bleeping business. If a woman is on her phone and pushing a pram, it's nothing to do with you. So, Caroline, you're a mother. You've pushed a pram before. I don't know if you've pushed a pram with a phone or if you're on Instagram, but you can, as an expert in this field, share your thoughts with us.
So, as a mother who has pushed a pram with 2 young children before, I have to say, I can't say that I've ever, used my phone while pushing the pram, mostly because I'm a bit uncoordinated and I don't think I could do both things at the same time. I've got to either push the pram or use the phone. So, but, I don't want to either, like, if other people can do that, that's fine. I don't want to judge other women on how, they push their pram. I mean, and that kind of highlights, that this is kind of a sensitive topic, because when you're a mother, you're already very sensitive, and people kind of tell you, like, are always telling you, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, and all the rest of it. So he's really pushed a button here with mums, I have to say. Like, sometimes as a mum, maybe not while I'm pushing the pram, but I do go on social media. Sometimes it's just a matter of needing to connect with someone, because as a mum, you can be very lonely at times, especially when the kids are very small. It's just you and the kids. And, my husband travels a lot for work, and, he's not often home. And so, sometimes you need a little bit of a break and you need to connect with someone else. And quite often my cousin, our cousin Maria, she was having babies around the same time. So,
yes.
And she, she's got young kids, and she was lonely too. And so we'd often, go on Facebook Messenger and, message each other and talk to each other and, kind of have our connection together and, help each other out and give advice and all the rest of it. So, that I don't see a problem with me wanting to communicate with someone using my phone. It doesn't mean I didn't pay attention to my children. It just means, I needed some other connection, because, to the way society is today, we don't live in big, community groups. So we don't have someone immediately available sometimes that we can just go and ask for help, or we tend to do it alone. Like I did I'm quite alone with my kids and me, and like, it's not like you and I live around the corner, so we can't just, I can't just pop over and ask for help or whatever, so although we do help each other out when we can. For him to be saying this, look, it's a social comment and people have reacted. I saw quite a few reactions from mothers, and basically, there was one saying, oh, don't worry, he's just a silly old man, or, something like that. And there was another one, the mother had drawn a cartoon saying, oh, I was on my phone while daddy was out drawing, what would he say? I was at home looking after my children while daddy was out, at work drawing cartoons, so like, yeah.
I've got it here, actually. Yeah, it's dad's inside drawing again, all that time with his pen. Being judgy is hard work. Why is dad such a jerk?
Something like that.
That hurts.
So, I mean,
I feel bad reading
I know,
it.
it's horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, once you start criticizing people's parenting styles, of course they're going to get upset. That's just natural, So I understand he has a comment about people being on their phones quite a lot in society generally. Yes, people are on their phone a lot. Maybe we're on our phones a little bit too much in circumstances where we shouldn't be. Say, like, if I go out, one of the times I go to a cafe with my husband, because a lot of his work is on his phone, he'll be on his phone. And I'll be like, come on, Phil, pay attention to me. We're together. Can you put the phone away? That kind of thing. So understand the social commentary in that sense. I don't know whether directing it at mothers is a good idea. I mean, I personally haven't seen a lot of mothers walking around with their phones, pushing a pram and mum and baby on the floor. Most mothers are quite good and they look after their children. So maybe it was, a little overboard, but, I do understand what he was saying in that sense. But, so, I mean, of course there's going to be a reaction when you start pointing at mothers. When most of mothers are trying to do our best, as it is. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at both sides here because in one sense, I mean, the commentary on phone use is pretty obvious. We know that there's a risk that, and we've all done it ourselves, where we can use our phone a little bit too much, spend a bit too much time on it. Here I am playing Clash Royale all the time. There is always that risk that we can reduce personal communication, person to person because we are, we're on our phones checking out social media or liking, posts and things like that. But yeah, maybe there's that, because I'm looking at that other point of view that, that from the reaction from mothers, and that is that they, they've got their kids but they also want to be able to connect and reach out to other people. And I guess that's because, if you are a working mother, even not working mother, a stay-at-home mum or even a stay-at-home dad, we've got a couple of those as well. Sometimes, you, as much as you are giving your kids the love and connection they need and you're getting something out of your kids as well, I guess you also want to connect with what everyone else is doing, people who are not, at home because they've got the kids and everything. Yeah. So, I guess, it's, I'm trying to think of what's the Catholic point of view, because I'm trying to think, why did the Catholic Weekly put it into, share it, whatever else? I know that they were trying to get reaction from other Catholics. And even Catholics were divided. They were nice to each other on Facebook, but they all had different points of view. Like saying, I'm a mother, but I want to reach out. I don't, the cartoon maybe portrays me in the wrong way, saying that I spend too much time on my phone and neglect my kids. But I do use my phone and I do take care of my kids at the same time. So, but I guess the good thing is, I mean, this is the one thing I do like about provocative work by Looning and others is that it's actually got people talking about it, and and he probably knows he's going to get criticized. He's probably prepared to take his lumps for it. But at the same time, it does highlight for people to think about what it's like to be a mother at home, or a mother shopping, or a mother doing, whatever a mother's doing, while she's trying to look after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids or whatever it might be at home at any given time. And it highlights that. But then it also, there's a bit of a social warning for us to I guess, make our kids a priority without being too obsessed with social media and digital connection and things like that. Maybe he's thinking about a time when there was no social media and or digital communication to the extent that we have now, and thinking that it was a different time. I don't know, but I'm actually on the fence about this one, and I'd love to actually hear what people who are listening to this have to say, because I'm sure there would be a lot of opinions and a lot of wisdom in those opinions too. I'd love to hear what people have to say.
Yeah, for sure. We all have our own experiences, don't we? I mean, we all use social media one way or another, and maybe sometimes we do spend a bit too much, and yes, we do need to pay attention to our children. So he has got a few points here and there that definitely we can talk about. Yeah,
it was certainly Friday afternoon division, because that's when it was drawn and produced. So there was a Friday afternoon, so something to get you all fired up for the weekend.
That's a lot to think about.
I know, when you're tired,
on a Friday afternoon.
Knock off and go home. I know, that's right.
Yeah, I know. Well, do it on a Monday.
Yeah, that's right. When we're less fresh.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So for people who are listening, you can check out the link for that in our show notes. We'd love to hear your thoughts, especially from a Catholic point of view. For one thing, I guess, as Catholics, if I want to put a spiritual note on this, is that we probably do have to do a bit of a family health check and make sure that we are paying enough attention to each other. Husband and wife, we complement each other. As the Catechism says, we have a complementary relationship in our maleness and our femininity. There's my attempt to use big words on a Friday afternoon. And that love exists, in one essence. It's a procreative love, and that we, create, we have our kids, and that love is meant to be poured onto kids. So maybe if there's anything good out of Lunix's cartoon, it's do a bit of a family health check and just make sure that you are giving husband/wife/children the attention that they deserve as well.
Yeah, good point. Yep.
Yeah. All right. With that, we'll wrap that up, and let's move over to some science.
What a fine day for science.
You have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Can you reverse the polarity?
I'll do my best.
Science, 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 science. Science, 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 science. Yeah, I like science.
All right, Caroline, we're in your hands. You've got some interesting topics to talk about today. So I think we're going to do a bit of a checklist of topics here. So I'll let you decide where you'd like to start with these, because I'm really curious myself about some of them. So off you go, Caroline.
Okay, let's go. So I got about 3-4 topics here, only because I wasn't on last podcast, and I really wanted to talk about all of them. So I'll try and do them briefly, and because they're all very interesting.
This is why you need to podcast more frequently with us, so that you can get this off your chest, Otherwise it builds up.
It does build up, and I take over the episode. So yeah,
go for it. Take over away.
All right. Okay, so the first thing I'd love to talk about is one of the latest NASA missions that was launched, called the ICON mission, which stands for Ionospheric Connection Explorer. So what is this? It's the study of the Earth's ionosphere. Do you know where the ionosphere is?
Somewhere between me and outer space.
Definitely correct. So what it is, basically, it is the layer of it is the upper layer of the Earth's atmosphere that overlaps with the boundary of space. It's essentially where Earth weather meets with space weather. And so space weather is defined as, the radiation coming from the sun in the forms of, solar flares and coronal mass ejections, when the sun releases all its particles in bursts. And there's a continual solar wind that's coming off the sun. It's always ejecting particles. It's a big, nuclear fission ball, and it's always creating energy and light and heat, and also this solar wind of particles.
Well, I was going to say solar winds to try and sound smart, but you got in before me, but okay.
I'll pretend you said it first, okay. And so this has an effect on Earth's atmosphere. So where the atmosphere meets the space, so we've got, our atmosphere is mostly made of oxygen and nitrogen. And there's a few other little elements in there that are, much less concentration. What happens is that the sun's radiation will excite these molecules, and they become ions. And so basically they're ionized. And, you get the regions in the north and solar poles, north and south poles, where you get, the aurora, see the northern or southern lights. Well, that's what you're seeing. You're seeing these energized particles. So, and it's also the region of space where we have our magnetosphere. So the magnetosphere is the big magnetic region around Earth. So we've got these big magnetic fields, and they actually ward off this radiation. So a lot of the sun's radiation doesn't get to us. So we do get some UV radiation, and that's why we have to put sunscreen on. But most of it doesn't get through because we have this big magnetosphere, and it protects us. So that's why we are able to have life on Earth. We're not just, blown away by, all the radiation. So that's just a little bit of a background what the ionosphere is. So what this this mission was launched on the 10th of October.
Yep.
And its mission is to study the link between space weather and terrestrial weather, how they interact. So it was launched on, so I mentioned on 10th of October. Very interesting way of launching a probe into space, or a mission, a little spacecraft. This one wasn't launched just from rocket from the ground. This one was actually aboard an aircraft. So it was aboard. Oh. So what happened is they put a big, it's called the Northrop Grumman Pegasus rocket, which was attached to a big Stargazer L1011 aircraft. So imagine, the passenger airline aircraft. It looks very much like one of those,
right? But
underneath it was actually carrying a rocket. So the aircraft flew up into the atmosphere as high as it needed to, and then launched this rocket from the airplane. They have done this a few times before, but this is actually the first time I've actually got to see the footage. So they streamed it live, and it was very interesting to watch. So what happens is this rocket is launched off the aircraft, and then the aircraft is kind of pushed up. So it's a good idea that it does this, because a bit of space gets between the rocket and the aircraft, just in case anything goes wrong. I heard the pilot speaking, and he was saying, it's like a Disneyland, Disneyland ride, because all of a sudden he's being pushed up.
Yes.
The seat's pushing him up. And it's like, wow, So it's a very, very exciting way to launch a rocket.
It'd be a thrill and a scare at the same time, wouldn't it?
It was quite amazing, yeah. So I just think it's almost as cool as seeing them being launched off the ground, if not cooler.
Yeah. Now, before you talk about your next one, can I just intervene here?
Yeah.
Because we were just talking about Michael Leunig and, Mothers Obsessed with Phones. Yes. I just wonder if Michael Leunig should draw one for you, where, baby's wondering where mother is while you're on your computer watching space videos on YouTube, live launches of things.
Lindsay, you're revealing a bit too much about me. It's me watching NASA all day, watching these launches and watching interviews about,
Yeah, so what's next on your list of space talk?
Oh, wait, I'll just finish off this one.
Yep.
That's okay. So basically, why they want to study this too is because in the ionosphere, the International Space Station sits there.
Yes.
Also, we have a lot of communication satellites that's there. There's the radio waves and the GPS signals pass through there and can become distorted from the solar winds. And also, the space weather can have an impact on communication systems, electronics and power grids. And there have been cases in history where, things have gone wrong because of these strong solar winds. So that is one of the reasons for this mission. So I suggest actually looking up this mission. We'll have a link somewhere for you and in the notes, and you can read all about it. It's really interesting. And there's also the footage of the launch of the mission, which I highly recommend watching. It's fantastic. So, that's number one.
Great. So, parents, before you watch the link of the launch, can you please make sure you put your kids to bed first? And then
it's very good. Yeah, it's very great.
Okay, so number two, Caroline.
Okay, so number two, this week there was two NASA astronauts in the International Space Station had the first all-women spacewalk.
Oh, yay.
So this is the first time two women have gone out on their own and done an EVA to conduct maintenance on the space station. Now, it's not the first time that a woman has been out into space, doing any maintenance. As unfortunately, President Trump thought that was the first time that a woman had done it. No, sorry, sir, but no. Women have actually been doing this since 1984. So this time it was astronauts Christina Koch and Jessica Meyer. And Christina actually led this mission, and this was the 221st EVA that has been carried out on the ISS. And 42 spacewalks have been done by, with a woman there present. The first woman to have done any spacewalking in 1984 was Svetlana Saristkaya, and there was an American woman after her. So out of 15 women who've done this, 14 women have been from NASA. So, and Christina Koch also is set to set a record in December for being the first woman with the longest amount of time spent in space.
Oh, wow.
So, currently the record is 288 days by Peggy Whitson, and in December it will soon be Christina. So that's very exciting. It just shows that, I'm not, promoting a, gender, race, women are better than men or men are women better than, no one's better than anyone. But it just, it's just great to see that women have the opportunities to do the same things that men do, if they, it's just good that then there's an even footing that if a woman wants to become an astronaut and go and work on the space station, that there's every opportunity for her to do it. So I think that's just really encouraging for women.
Yeah, that's a great story. All right.
So that's very exciting.
By any chance, do you know what their EVA was for? Was it maintenance or was it?
It was just carrying out maintenance. Yeah. So there's regular maintenance carried out on the ISS for certain things. You'll see them changing out parts and fixing things. Something may go wrong, and they just need to go out and repair it or replace batteries or all sorts of things. So so this was just another repair mission. They spend several hours out there usually, so it's quite intense. And I always I'm always watching for the guide ropes and making sure that they're attached, because that's the thing that really you just wouldn't want to float out in space. It'd be quite dangerous, but they are attached to each other, attached to the space station, and it's really great to see. And I was having fun. I was, the boys were watching a bit of that with me, and I was saying, "Oh, look, there's Earth underneath," so they could see that the space station was above Earth, and it's just, the views of Earth as well. It's just, the whole thing blows my mind.
Yeah,
I just
brilliant.
really love it.
Yes, yeah.
It's just amazing.
All right, so can I set up this next one? All right, so I'm looking at the show notes that you wrote here in our little document.
Yes.
And you've got the Blob, Paris Zoo.
Yes.
Tell us what's this blob at Paris Zoo? What's going on?
What is this blob at Paris Zoo? So, okay. So Paris Zoo have an exhibit of not a traditional life form that you would have in a zoo. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been calling this the Blob. And I was like, what is this blob? Now, the first thing, it is, so what they're calling is a yellow unicellular organism, and it kind of, it spreads itself out. It looks like a kind of mold thing. It spreads itself out. Wow. It's able to crawl around and all the rest of it. Now, the first thing I thought, because I did, part of my degree was biology and microbiology, and I thought, could this be a slime mold? Okay, now if you know a bit about microbiology, you'll know that slime mold is another one of those microorganisms, but it's not quite a fungus, not quite a bacteria.
Right.
And no one ever called it a slime mold, but everyone's calling it a blob.
Yeah.
And I thought, let me look this up. I just Googled what is the blob, and there you go. It's a slime mold. Okay,
so your theory was correct. Yeah.
It's nothing that people don't know about, but maybe the general public don't know about.
Yeah.
And, it's very cool that they actually have it as an exhibit, because I, for one, would go and see it. Okay. I think, I used, part of my degree was like growing mold and looking at it under the microscope, and, and I just find it really fascinating as well. That's one of my other loves. It's just, there's no NASA for mold. So, I talk about NASA rather than mold. So,
can I just interrupt you for 1 second? All right.
Yeah,
now
go.
I just Googled this right now. I've got it here in front of me, right? And 3 headlines popped up. Okay. So People Magazine, all right. Their headline says, Paris Zoo just unveiled a bizarre organism called the Blob, a self-healing living being. Would you care to comment on that one?
Well, I was going to go through and tell you some of these things that a slime mold can do.
Yeah.
So it can heal itself if it's split into two.
Right.
So it is one multi-cell. It's one big, massive cell with lots of thousands of nuclei throughout. So usually you have in our body, you know, we're made up of lots of little cells and each cell has a nucleus. That's the traditional way, okay, of life. But this thing breaks the rules. It's just like, nah, I'm not doing that. It's just one big thing and it has many nuclei. And I suspect that's why it can, you know, if it's cut in two, there's plenty of nuclei around and it can heal itself, you know. So that's one of the things it can do. Now, there are some strange things that it can do, I have to admit.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so it's got memory. It remembers things.
Okay.
It can solve puzzles.
Ooh.
It can go through mazes and find food at the end of the maze. I saw a video of one of the zoo their workers there saying that they put like a little line of salt across, you know, its path in front of some food, and it would actually problem solve to get around the salt. So it wouldn't go through the salt. It would know that salt is bad, and it would go up and around and go past and get to the food.
What is this creature?
So it's very amazing. They think that maybe it's related to an amoeba. So I don't know if you know what an amoeba is, but it's a microorganism that you can see with a telescope. It's just unicellular and it kind of creeps around. It's very tiny and it goes around like eating, you know, other tiny little, you know.
Oh, yeah. I actually saw
So,
that episode
yeah.
of Star Trek, the original series, where the
Oh,
Enterprise
of course,
gets caught in
of
an
course.
amoeba. So, yeah, I know all
That's
about them.
right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
It's just like the tardigrade in the Discovery series.
The
Yeah, they were
tardigrade.
completely
Yes.
correct with that.
The
And
large-
the mycelial network.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, mushrooms in space. Yeah, it's all true. Yep. Go on.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, we sidetracked. We get sidetracked there. Yeah. So look, there's no doubt this is an amazing creature. I've always wanted to see a slime mold in nature, but I haven't managed to see one yet. I mean,
There you go.
I like to go out. Yeah, I like to go at winter when the mushrooms come out and, you know, me and the boys go hunting and we take photos of them and things like that. So it's just, yeah, good on them for exhibiting one. I wish Melbourne Zoo would get a slime mold because I'd love to see it. It's just,
This thing,
yeah.
it looks and sounds like Venom from Spider-Man or something. Do you know anything about
Yeah, it's
Venom?
not.
You need to. All right.
No.
It's this intelligent organism. It looks a bit like a slime
Yeah.
mold, and it like jumps in your body and sort of takes control
Oh,
of you.
yes. Okay. I
Yeah.
think I've seen a similar thing on Ben 10 as well.
Yeah,
But
possibly.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so probably a lot of like scary bad guys and things have been based on slime molds and
Yeah.
not even noticed. But yeah, so everybody, the blob is actually a slime mold.
Yeah.
It's not a new thing, but it's an amazing thing. So yeah, go research slime molds, I reckon.
I'm
That's
blown
what I
away
think.
by what I'm looking at. This episode is worth alone listening to just for the slime mold, to be honest. This is amazing.
Yes. Yeah, no, they're very cool creatures. Look, microbiology is another amazing field just because we can't see them. Once you get a microscope on what you can't see with the naked eye, oh, it's a whole new world. It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. It really is.
Can I read another headline that I've got here? And I don't know if you came across
Sure.
this, but it says, new attraction at Paris Zoo, multi-headed slime blob with 700 genders.
Yes, so apparently it can have 720 genders, sexes, whatever you want to call it.
Whoa.
Because it has a range of different genes that come in multiple variants. So it's not a boy or a girl. It's, you know,
It's a community.
The genetics. Yeah, the genetics, it's not traditional, you know, male or female. You know, I don't even think bacteria have genders, you know, so it's a completely different type of life form. And also, you know, one of the ways that it can multiply is that it releases spores, which is what molds do normally, and some bacteria. But these then develop into sex cells, and then the two will join, and a baby slime mold is born. So,
Oh, there you go. How cute.
yeah. So, like, you can cut it in two. You'll get two different ones. Oh, another fact is,
Yeah.
if you get one slime mold and it knows something, so like it's got a memory of something, and you join it with another one, that new one will get the memory of the old one. So it'll just
Wow.
know what the old one. Yeah,
I think I know where Star Trek's been getting half its plot lines from now. They've been studying slime molds.
They've got a microbiologist on the writing team.
Must
they do.
have.
Yeah,
Well, there's one more fact. I'm not sure if you got this one at all, Caroline, and I'm going to feel very intelligent if you didn't realize this. But did you know that the slime mold is also capable of eating oatmeal?
I didn't know it eats oatmeal.
Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. I thought it ate bacteria, yeast, and fungi found on decomposing plant matter, but that's okay.
Well, according to Smithsonian Magazine, I've got it right here. It's capable of learning and eating oatmeal.
Well, it's a fibrous type of food, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Good.
Okay.
Everybody needs a bit of fiber in their diet.
Yep. Even slime molds.
Even slime molds.
See, slime molds could be like a really good advertisement for Weet-Bix or something, like the fiber, some kind of,
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. The new spokesperson for Weet-Bix.
Slime mold, have you had your Weet-Bix today?
Oh, no.
Australia's favourite
apologise
breakfast.
for that.
Anyway. All right. This is getting a bit weird. Let's move on.
Yeah.
All right.
We're a bit tired.
And you sent me some really awesome photos that you took with your iPhone. Because you were doing, we had a nice day yesterday and some really clear weather, and you started doing some backyard astronomy. So tell us about this. It's really cool.
Oh, okay. So we had an absolutely gorgeous, still, warm light last night. So Melbourne, we're starting to get into the warm weather, not without hiccups because it's going hot and cold and hot and cold. But last night I had the most amazing views of Venus and Jupiter. And I could not resist. I had to find the best place in the house, and it happened to be in my boys' bedroom. It's upstairs. So I just kind of pushed all their toys out of the way, made them help me carry the telescope upstairs.
Quick.
Yes, it was like that because do you know how fast Venus sets? Wow. So you've got to really be onto it. It moves very quickly, or the Earth is spinning very quickly and we don't see it. But anyway, so Venus didn't stay up for too long. I only had a window like from the time it was very visible. So maybe I had about 45 minutes, an hour, which seems like a long time. But when you're trying to capture it on the phone or on your telescope, it's not that long. So I put my telescope onto Venus and I had a good look, and what I saw was stunning. So I managed to get some photos of it. Now Venus is very bright, so when you're taking photos it doesn't capture too well, but then I remembered I had some filters, so I use a blue filter and I managed to get a nice kind of pixely but still pretty good photo of Venus, which I'm pretty happy with. And then I looked at Jupiter. Wow. If you haven't seen Jupiter through a telescope, find someone with a telescope and go and look at Jupiter because you will be amazed. It is so beautiful. The rings of the gas clouds is just amazing. And the moons around it all aligned. They look like stars, but they're moons. They look like stars because they're quite bright. But what an amazing! I just was so amazed. I had to get the boys down from their bunks and come on, boys, you've got to look. Come quick, come and look at Jupiter. So I've just kind of been inspired now to save up my money and to get some more equipment for my telescope. I just learned that you could get a Wi-Fi set, so you get a camera and a focuser, and there's another box that helps you to connect your phone to the telescope and to the camera, so you get the images directly onto your camera.
Oh, brilliant.
Which is really cool. So maybe the secrets of tech can have a look at that one time.
There's your pick of the week if you're ever on there. Yeah.
That's my pick of the week. Yeah. So I'm going to save up really hard. It's not too expensive, but I do need to save a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
And because I'm really into taking photos of the planet. So I'm gonna try and get that and one day hope post some pretty pictures of Jupiter and Venus. So so there we go.
Yeah, thanks for that. I was really impressed by your photos. Like you said, they're pixely because it's it's an iPhone taking a photo of something through a telescope, but they still looked really amazing. I was really impressed. So, and it must look really stunning through your telescope as well.
It is. And because Venus has got a very thick atmosphere, it kind of reflects all the light of the sun. So that's why it's quite bright. And I could kind of capture that when I got the filter on it, you could kind of see it was a fuzzy ball of gas, you know? So, yeah, it's very interesting. And even Jupiter, you can see what a smooth, you know, shiny ball of gas it is as well. So, and all the striations of the clouds and everything. So, oh, yeah, you can kind of tell how enthusiastic I am about it.
Yeah, that's good. I know how enthusiastic you were because I know that you're a bit of an early sleeper and you were still sending text messages after 10 p.m. last night. So that's,
yes, it's true. Yeah, when I'm doing my stargazing, I don't get much sleep. And then Frankie had a nightmare at 4 a.m. So I did not get much sleep last night.
Worth it, totally worth it.
It was 100% worth it because it's going to be cloudy for the next week and I won't see anything. So I'm glad I did it.
Yes, yeah. All right, well, let's move on to doing a bit of follow-up now. So this is the part of the show where we're about to wrap up, but we like to just talk about things that are related to episodes that we've talked about and any listener feedback. So got a couple of things, so I might just speed through some of this really quickly. So Caroline, last episode, Jared and I talked about the Melbourne City Council, and they were going to have a vote, which they've already had. They had a vote about if priests in the churches of Melbourne, including the St. Patrick's Cathedral as well, so the Archbishop, if they the vote was to ask them if they would support the seal of confession laws, where a priest would have to reveal if they heard about abuse during confession, which would mean breaking canon law and breaking the seal of confession and excommunication, all that kind of stuff. Basically, if the priest indicated that they won't support that law, the vote was then to place signs outside of Catholic churches and the cathedral in the city of Melbourne, the city of Melbourne Council Shire, that would say something along the lines of, "This church may not be a safe place for children." So, so I said to Jared, "Look, this vote's probably not going to go anywhere. It's probably not going to get up." And surprisingly, it got up 5 votes to 3. So the Melbourne City Council has actually voted this in as a, kind of like a bylaw or an action they're going to take. So the latest that I've read about it is that they need to get legal advice to see if they can actually do it or not. So Anyway, so we'll be watching this one because there's a freedom of religion case in this for sure. To target churches and then to say we can put signs outside churches and, that say this place may not be safe for children that's really targeted. That's such a bizarre thing.
Very much so. It's a bit unfair. I mean, I understand what's gone on before, but come on, it's not. It's not fair at all.
Yeah. So that was the first one. Now, I just also wanted to mention very quickly that very, very recently, Let's Talk had an episode on end-of-life issues. Now, we've talked about euthanasia laws in Victoria before, so I thought it would be good for listeners to actually check out this episode of Let's Talk because it looks at end-of-life from a Catholic perspective and some of the care that goes into end-of-life from a Catholic point of view, and also the importance of things like the last rites, that sacrament. And I just thought they spoke beautifully about it, and also talking from their own personal experiences. Father Corey spoke from and Father Michael, who was there as well. They spoke from the points of view of priests who have been present for those moments, and the theology of it. And then Pat Scott was also there talking about her own experiences of, of being aware of the death of others and being present as well. So I'd love to just promote that episode and encourage anyone to listen to episode 67 of Let's Talk. And Caroline, we had some listener feedback. This is twice in a row now, which is wonderful. Last episode, Jared and I talked about ideas for helping your kids along their faith journey. And so listening on YouTube, Avasconti3 said, "Thank you for your ideas and inspiration. Laying the foundation of faith in our children is the greatest task so many of us are called to. Peace." And I thought that was beautiful. Firstly, thank you for calling our words inspiring. And, if any of you have any words for us about what you do, we are more than willing to hear them and take those on board. And yes, we agree. Obviously, we bring children into the world and their faith journey is a very important thing to us. So I thought I might just add one more thing that I forgot to say. And I think you've got one as well, Caroline, but just one more tip, one for the road. A tip that I wanted to add last episode was the importance of also sharing stories with our children that have a faith influence. So I'm thinking of Lord of the Rings. I'm thinking I'm thinking of what is it? The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the Narnia Chronicles.
Yeah, Narnia.
Because what's good about those is you can actually sit down with your kids and read together or watch together, and there are lots of faith links. Like there is just so much. There are so many faith links in these stories that they're drenched with it. It's like squeezing a sponge, and all of it that just drips out. And so many things that you can talk about with your children that can lay the foundation for their faith. So Damien and I read, we haven't finished it yet, but we're taking a break, but we were reading The Hobbit, and The Hobbit is an allegory of pilgrimage, like moving out of your comfort, and taking that difficult journey and growing, which is what a pilgrimage is. It's not like a holiday. Pilgrimage is a very challenging, faith journey, and you are traveling on faith in a lot of ways. Lord of the Rings has so many allegories, I haven't got time to go into it. And also the sin, redemption, forgiveness, the dangers of evil wanting to dominate and take over everything is so present in the Narnia Chronicles and Lord of the Rings. So I reckon whether you're watching the film versions or reading it with your kids, I recommend reading it with your kids. I think it's just an amazing way to talk about faith too. You don't have to lecture your kids. You just drop some hints and ideas, and they can do the rest. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. Caroline, what about you?
Yeah, well, I mean, just by coincidence, yesterday, Frankie came home from school and they were reading the parable of the Good Samaritan at school. And he came back really enthusiastic about it, and he recited the whole thing to me. He just loved it. Yeah. And, he told me, the lesson from it and everything. And then he said to me, I love those stories. I want to read more stories. I said, okay. So I just so happen to have the children's Bible and one that Isabel, your wife, actually gave to me a while ago. Yep. And so we got the Bible out, and I showed him. I went to the New Testament. I showed him, some of the parables there. And I think one was the one with the rich man, and he asked Jesus, I keep all the commandments. What else must I do to gain eternal life? Yep. And we were talking about, different aspects of that. And then there was another one talking about, that's silly of me, I can't remember which one, but the topic came up of the 12 apostles. And then Frankie asked me a pointed question, why do we have 12 apostles? Yes. And I started explaining. I said, it's because in Israel there's 12 tribes. And then I thought, you know what? Lindsay knows more about this, so why don't we ask him? So I sent a quick video of Frankie asking a question. What was it? Like, hi, Uncle Lindsay. Yes. Why are there 12 apostles? Yeah. So it was our own little Catholic answers. Yeah, I did a little Catholic answers for him. Yeah, I recorded a video back. Right. Yeah, that was fun. That's it. Yeah. And you gave such a lovely answer, and after that we had more discussion about it. Yeah. And so I reading a children's Bible where they, where it's a bit more simple than, an adult Bible, and they can understand a bit better. And that really opened up the discussion, and we had a really fun time doing it. So I suggest, reading parables to your children. Yeah. Oh, awesome. Thanks for that. Yeah, all right. So let's bring it to a close here. We want to thank everyone for listening to episode 20 of the Catholics of Oz. But before we go, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Catholics of Oz and for all the other shows that are made on StarQuest. Today, we want to thank Gregory L., Charles J., Father Jeff, Mary B., and Zipporah T. Through their generous donations at sqpn.com/give, they make it possible for all of our shows on StarQuest to continue. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Also, we'd like to know your thoughts about the topics we've discussed today. So please send us feedback by visiting sqpn.com/oz, where you can also find our show notes from today's episode. You can also visit SQPN on Facebook and find posts about our episodes there at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. And don't forget, the Catholics of Oz also have their own Facebook page, and we'd love for you to join us at facebook.com/Catholics of Oz, so you can discuss our latest episodes with us there. We can also be reached by email at catholicsofoz@sqpn.com. Caroline, thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you. It was fun as usual. And once again, I'm Lindsay Sant. Thank you for listening to the Catholics of Oz on StarQuest.